Let's do a tour of the hydrangea garden. Now, a lot of these pink ones, they are in pots. That's why they're pink. And they do really good in the pot, but there's some advantages and some disadvantages in doing that. Now this plant over here, last year, this was all pink. I mean, you can see it was in, now it's in the ground. It's changing slowly into a blue hydrangea. Because that soil is a lot more acidic than the Miracle-Gro from the pots. Now this one is still looks pretty good. Now you can see the flowers starting to fade. It still looks good. These are my pink 4 o'clocks. I'm going to do a video later on about them. And you can see my other hydrangeas. The blue ones. Now I think the blue ones would have done a lot better if I would have prepared the soil before I planted them. So I didn't do a lot of soil preparation, so we didn't get a very good plant later on. But they're doing good, it's just, I think they could have done a lot better if I would have prepared the soil before I planted them. But that's how you learn. Now let's get to the hydrangeas in pots. Now, these plants in pots, there's some advantages and disadvantages to putting them in pots. First, after they're propagated, we get a ton of growth, a lot of growth. Let me show you this one here. This plant here is, well, there's a lot there. Let me put this one on the ground so we can see it separate from everything else. This plant has so many flowers on it, it's falling over. I should probably bring them up a little bit. But this is a potted plant. It's in Miracle-Gro, and it is 2.5 years old. So that's what we got out of 2.5 years. That's a lot of growth from a little cutting that we propagated. And you can see here, this is the first year. This is the second year. There's second year here too. And the rest of this green that you see now is the third year, or about 2.5 years. The first year is just propagating, nothing else. You can see you can get a very big plant when you start them in a good soil in a pot, because you can control where the plant is, what kind of sun it gets, how much water it gets. So there's a lot of control, and you get a lot of growth when you can do that, and you can move them around. So back to our potted plants. Now again, you can control the sun, the water, what kind of dirt. You can move them around, decorate with them. Country Living magazine, you can do a little thing like they do every year. But what they don't tell you is the amount of work that goes into the potted hydrangeas. Now you gotta water them every 2 days. You have to overwinter them. And you have to make sure their soil is, fertilized. Because they run out of fertilizer pretty quick. So every year you gotta refertilize them. Change their pots when they grow their pots, they need bigger pots. So there is quite a bit of work that goes into potted hydrangeas. Especially if you have a lot of them. and you want to do something like Country Magazine does every year, they show it on their cover, it's a little bit more work than they're telling you. But there's a lot of benefits to it. Now when you plant hydrangea in the ground, that's a lot less work, a lot less watering. But I do recommend you do some research on how to plant a plant in the ground before you plant it. You have a lot more success. But this is the tour of my hydrangea garden. You can see this hydrangea looks very nice. But it is in regular soil from the ground in a pot. There's no Miracle-Gro in there. I didn't put in Miracle-Gro. That's just regular soil. That's why it's turning blue. So that is the tour of my garden. This year was a very good year. We got a lot of flowers, a mild winter, and we protected them early on in the winter from the frost. So that, every time they called for a frost warning, we had to come out here and cover them up so we didn't lose them to that early frost. And that mild winter brings them out early. Well, you can see all the honeybees here. I haven't seen that in years. And there's a lot of them. Usually during the summertime, you rarely see bees anymore. But you can see them now, which is good. That's a good sign. I'm not sure how much they like the hydrangeas, but they certainly like the hosta flowers. Okay, so that's the tour. And one last thing before we go for today. This is my Craftsman model 452.8783. And we did a nice little thing with pot hydrangeas in it. So you can use them to decorate around your home.